Afternoon, everybody. Yeah, I got my long overdue haircut. My barbershop's busy, which is a good sign. It means they know what they're doing. But an important video on narcissism. Fair warning, probably going to get a little angry in this one because, my narcissistic aunts were here again. My brother let them in, even though I could throw them out because I'm the executor. But I want to discuss an important topic on narcissism. And remember how at times I drag myself on there in not so good emotional states because I want you to see it. Because if you see it, then you don't feel alone when you're going through the same thing. And it's a rational response when dealing with this type of behavior and having your feelings and emotions completely invalidated, which is what narcissists will always do. And yes, selfishly, it allows me to get these emotions out instead of stewing and sweating for 2 days and suspecting everybody's out to get me. Because, well, my family is. I don't know who they know. You never know who the flying monkeys are. Narcissism will make you a little paranoid, especially when people start being nice to you. Like out of nowhere, it's like, what are you up to? What is this about? But nonetheless, the crux of this is the narcissist will invalidate your emotions. So whatever your emotional state, whatever hardship you're going through, as the black sheep, as the scapegoat, as I am, it doesn't matter. Only the narcissist, their enablers to a lesser extent, and the golden child's emotions matter. You, like in every other essence, are just there to be used. You are a tool, a pawn for them to manipulate for whatever means, for whatever their end game is, and of course for them to exploit and profit off of you. They can profit off of you monetarily, and they can exploit you as well, like slave labor essentially, or sexually. That more so happens with females. Seek out Lilith; she'll get your revenge on that. Or ask me to do it. I'm pretty good at it. So, things of that nature. Like, for example, in my current state today, there's all this stuff. I have some stuff from in this house that was my father's in his childhood. And, my aunt wants it, and I had to move 3 cars to go up in the attic and get it. Didn't really understand why she needed it right now, because it's Christmas stuff. I understand she can have it. She wants to use it, but it's April. Like, it's going to sit in a closet for months, right? But her friend was here too, and it was like, oh well, your father died. That was her brother. This and that. My father died 5 years ago, but yet for the narcissist, specifically the narcissistic baby boomer, which I've talked about, I'm not going to get into it. Where I live, if you are a baby boomer, you are of a higher class by definition. Like, you are in Chester County. If you are a baby boomer, you are by birthright the aristocracy, and everybody born after 1964, regardless of merit, anything, you are a second-class citizen. That is how it works here. I've talked to other people, even boomers admitted it to me, so I'm not making this up. I know some of you think I'm out there. I'm eccentric as hell, I admit it, but been checked multiple times by multiple FBI professionals even. Still not crazy yet, but, who knows what the next concussion will bring. So, we're there, right? Yeah. So her emotions over her brother dying 5 years ago are still relevant. Now, when did my mother die? Right before Thanksgiving. Now, mind you, my father was sick for a year before he died. Like, it wasn't sudden. We knew it was coming. He was in a home at the end. It was very painful to watch. But when that was going on, where was she? Playing golf. And could my mother, who had drug problems, handle it and handle things going on? No. Could my man-child brother, the prince, who's perpetually 18 years old? No. So who do you think had to leave his apartment and move home, to take care of his father, who couldn't get around easily? And my old man was 6'4", 260 pounds. My mother was 5'2", about 120 pounds. Now you know why I'm 6 foot even. But obviously my mother couldn't physically help and handle all the financial stuff and all the legal stuff. Me. Did I get credit? Hell no. But more importantly, my mother died suddenly. I had my issues with the woman, I'm not going to deny that. But funeral, all that, I had to do it. Write the obituary. All these, people she was so close with couldn't write anything. Yet it was, ironically enough, the person who knew her the best, that's living anyway, was the black sheep son that she treated like a daughter. Because I know things I shouldn't know, things my brother couldn't handle. Regardless, but never mind, all the stuff I'm finding from my childhood pictures, and never mind the emotional roller coaster that I'm in. That doesn't matter. Just go, faster, faster, faster. No excuses. And when they mean by excuses, I'm saying like, oh, well, I can't get the auction company out this week because he's on vacation. That's an excuse. That's my fault. Or my brother's idiot friend who's buying the spare refrigerator, she'll make excuses for him. I'm like, well, he said he was coming Friday, didn't come. Well, maybe he's got to find a truck. I'm like, he drives a full-size pickup truck. That's his vehicle. That's what he drives. So, wrong. But she never met this guy. But see, he's a good old boy. So she'll stand up for him no matter what. And that's how things work here. So what I'm getting at is, if you are the black sheep, whatever emotions you're going through in anything, doesn't matter. This is why we learn as scapegoats not to have emotions, because they'll never be validated. And it doesn't matter what it is. When a scapegoat gets wronged, abused, mistreated, cheated, it doesn't matter. It's your fault. Case in point, famous one if you've been watching my channel. When I faced bullying and hazing in the Arlington County Fire Department and reported it, and then faced retaliation for reporting it, my family, well, not my mother to give her credit, but my extended family sided with the fire department because they're the establishment. They're the good old boys club, and they're pro good old boys club, proudly at that. So I was evil for having a lawsuit. I was more evil, and these are mostly women, mind you, before I say this. I was vilified for exposing the fact that fire department swept under the rug cases of sexual assault and potentially rape. Yeah. I'm the bad guy for telling the truth. That victim said, I'm not strong enough. Why don't you say something about it? And I did. But that makes me the bad guy because that could harm the establishment. And the establishment must be protected at all costs. It doesn't matter what the establishment or the narcissists and their inner circle do to anybody not outside the club, as long as the club is protected at all costs. And they see the same paradigm here, where it's like, oh, he successfully went after the good old boys club. They had to make permanent changes, and they can't get away with what they feel entitled to anymore. That's evil. That is the embodiment of evil for them. Like society saying that, no, this is not okay. We are going to force you to change. We don't care about your tradition. We don't care about who your grandfather was. We don't care who you were in high school. We don't care about who you think you are and whatever made-up titles you gave yourself. Which is why myself and probably many scapegoats out there, our emotions are invalidated because we don't abide by their system, essentially their religion. And I'll explain it in a way that most of you that have a narcissistic family can understand. So as a scapegoat, you as well as me are probably often told, to get with the program, to fall in line, what they will think. But what I've been asking for 20 years, long before I learned about narcissism or any of this, is who is this infamous they? Who are these they? The they that set all the rules. The they that decide what's acceptable, what's normal. The they that decide who are human beings and who are to be abused with, no repercussions. Well, they can't answer that. And why do I care about what they think? Who put they in power? What office does they hold? How are they removed from said office? And why do I care what they think? What does they have that I want? Crickets, of course. It's all about conformity and subservience, which narcissists are all about, conforming to their made-up rule. Because in their minds, your decisions, where you go to college, what you study, what job you do, where you live, who you date, it's their choice and not your own. especially if you're a scapegoat, especially if you're a feared scapegoat, like if you're, kind of rebellious and boisterous, especially if you're intelligent, not to brag, but I do have an IQ of 132. But anyway, intelligent scapegoats are the worst because we got philosophical minds and we'll be like, wait a minute, none of this makes sense. A lot of people would be like, well, I just got to get away from it. It's like, no, I got to burn it down. So we'll ask these questions that nobody can answer. And people on the outside that may see some of this narcissism stuff over the years may not understand the full extent of it. But then when it's explained to them in ways that it can be understood, then they realize the real picture. I'm living that reality now. And lo and behold, they finally see you, the victim, for who you really are and what you went through, and see the narcissist for who they really are, through the bravado, through the mask. And that's the worst thing ever, because once they're exposed for who they really are, then all their adulation that people give them for portraying the character that they've been portraying goes away. They can't, that can't be undone. So, that is why we as scapegoats must not only tell the truth for ourselves, but for others. But back to my point, because I go off on tangents, especially when I'm in an emotional state, which I clearly am. But your emotions are valid. If you are, as I am, working towards a life goal, and you are doing what you can as fast as you can, and you need a little time because, there's things that you're doing, and you're doing what you're being asked to, but the process takes a while. It's just how it goes, and it could be any number of things. Then you don't need to abandon that dream or that goal, whatever it is, just because a narcissist is telling you you're out of time, especially based on their arbitrary timeline that, when you get to the crux of it, is just because they said so. Because remember, a narcissist will always claim authority they don't have. My situation. Yeah, I'm in the process of selling a bunch of stuff, including the house. But, they don't get a say when I do it. Yes, I have to give my brother half of the profits, but the timetable is on me as the executor of the estate. I'm the only one with authority to do anything. I want to get out of here, yes, but I don't have things locked down in New York yet. I need to be signed to an agency to justify such a move. And of course, simple logic, I have things that are worth money that I'm not holding out for big money on, but I know they're worth something. And I want to find a company that'll be like, well, I can't give you that much, but I can give you, 60% of that. Sure, fine, take it. But I'm not putting it in the dumpster for nothing either, Get it? So that's where I'm at. And if you're the black sheep, like I said, you're just a tool. It'll all be, everything that the narcissist will be pushing you to do will be based on what they want to benefit them and or the golden child. And the golden child, as you know, has no responsibility. The golden child can sit in his room and eat pizza and smoke weed all day, and that's perfectly fine because he's the golden child. He doesn't have to do anything. He's great by definition. As I explained in another video, because the golden child is the embodiment of what the narcissist believes. The golden child is raised on the teachings of the narcissist and therefore becomes the embodiment of their teaching, of their worldview. And if that's unsuccessful, then the narcissist has to admit that, what they believe and say doesn't work or doesn't work anymore. It might be decades out of date. They can't do that. So they have to defend the golden child to the teeth because that's their heir, that's their successor kind of thing. Little rambly on this one, but I have some good points. You should keep watching. I'm going to keep talking because I have some more emotions to get out. Keep watching. But, so in these situations, it's hard to find people that know enough to validate your own emotions and what you're going through, because the narcissist will try to convince you that, this shouldn't bother you. Well, it's like I said, look at my case. It's like, my mom died suddenly less than 6 months ago. It's like, emotions invalid, go, go, go. Your brother died 5 years ago, but that's still relevant. 6 months, year, suddenly of drug overdose, sick for a year, just taking it on those merits, but with everything, there's a double standard with narcissists. It's the same thing. If you're a black sheep, you can't be cheated. The narcissist will defend your abuser. Like if a black sheep is sexually assaulted, as I was at 17, not that I talked about it to them. My mother didn't even know. Count on one hand. Actually, there's only one male I ever told that to. But regardless, they would invalidate that. They would defend your abuser, especially if the abuser is of that club. Where I am, this is really bad. Just to prove my point, though, the narcissistic female baby boomers defend. I have seen, this is going back a few years, but have defended their fellow boomers of the area in cases of them raping younger women. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And literally their excuses will be, oh, well, he was this and that in high school and all that, and she should be so lucky that he's interested in her because of this and that, and his uncle did this. I know. Yeah. But that's narcissistic logic right there. Keep that in mind. If a narcissist is invalidating your emotions over something, over a loss, over being wronged, what have you, I gave you a list already. I'm not going to repeat myself. I'm going to try not to. But it's not because what you went through wasn't a serious emotional event. It's because you don't matter. Because they say so and nothing else. Because to them, they determine, what you're allowed to be upset of. They determine, not what abuse is, but who it applies to. Got it? So, never seek their approval of anything, because you'll never get it. And if you do, don't think you can ever appease them, because as soon as you do even what they say, even if you do what they're telling you to do, they're just going to move the goalpost. They want you as a perpetual servant. But not me. I don't want to be a sheep. I want to burn the flock down. It's a very important, quote that resonates with me. It's a famous quote from a TV series, but it was important to me decades prior to it becoming famous on a TV series. But, because as you know, my maternal bloodline is the Casanovas. There's my blue dragon. And for those of you that watch my other videos, I am very, very, very much like my maternal grandfather. Looks and personality. He was an INFJ too, apparently, but he died when I was a toddler. But a lot of my relatives, especially in Italy, have told me as much for many years now. But regardless, the one person who really understood me growing up was my maternal grandmother, who's been gone 20 years. And she could, she knew what the rest of the family was. She used to pull me aside and tell me things. She was an ENFJ. Probably explains why I have such an affinity for them, or at least why I feel so understood by them. But I had a little stuffed dragon as a kid that was blue, and I had like little dragon motif jewelry. Like I was always proud of my Casanova dragons because it was tied to witchcraft, which I felt drawn to since I was 3 years old. Not the goddess Lilith. My historical goddess would be Diana, who I do work with, but she's not dark enough. Lilith called me, and we got a good thing going. But regardless, when all the kids would be like, let's just say jackasses, especially the boys, this was in the late 90s, like middle school, she told me not to be a sheep, to be a dragon. And the great Diana Rigg said the same line in her role as Olenna Tyrell on Game of Thrones, which I love because that fictional character is pretty damn close to who my grandmother was. So, that was really special for me to hear that all those years after my grandmother died. So keep that in mind. You don't have to be a sheep. You don't have to conform to a flock mentality, especially if it's a flock in a herd that you don't want to be a part of. There's a world beyond that fence. You can do as the goddess Lilith did, the choice she was given. This is paradise. Well, is it really paradise if you're told you must submit and live as a slave to be in paradise? Or you can sprout draconic wings and fly into the night and see what lies beyond the walls of the garden that you're told is paradise, but that you must live as a second-class citizen. I take the unknown because You know you're going to be miserable here being subservient. What's in the unknown is unknown. You don't know what you're going to find. But at least there's a chance. There's a chance that what you're looking for is out there. Not a certainty, but a chance. And the only way to find it is to take that chance. So I know I ran the gambit of philosophy, narcissism, INFJ, witchcraft. I really kind of covered all the bases in this one. It's kind of rambly, but it's important. And hopefully you watch to the end, because if you're in a similar situation, I have found that in past years helpful to hear not only somebody talking about that situation, but to see them in that mental state, to be like, oh, this is like a rational reaction to this type of behavior. Like, this is what it does. And I'll close with this. Remember, do not feel bad about holding your ground and saying no. They will label you as crazy. They will label, try to say you have anger issues, but all you're doing is standing up for your own free will, assumingly as an adult as I am, to live your own life. You do not have to live the life they chose for you. You can say no. But see, the only reason they're calling you crazy is because in their mind that's crazy. Because in their mind you are their property and they get to decide how you live. And that's just not true. No matter what they say, remember this, they can't enforce it. The power they think they have is made up. The authority they think they have is made up. They have no mechanism other than guilt and gaslighting and other narcissistic tactics to enforce it. The only way they can get your free will is if you give it to them. Don't. Because even if you do, even if you feel like you can't fight anymore, remember, you giving them your free will is not the end. It's just the beginning.